We just hit for a billion. Hey everybody, it's Commander Keen here with my first ever Borderlands 3 and first ever YouTube video of all time. I wanted to feature a build that I just finished working on here a little while ago called Popcycle Amara that I came up with during the Guardian Takedown in an effort to tackle the content a little more easily. I think I've done a pretty good job with that. I'd really like to show this off to get this out there. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this one. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So I know sometimes people like to come into build videos just to grab a skill tree quick so they can pop off and try it for themselves in their own way, which is totally fine with me. I'm going to throw one of those up for you guys right about here. Take a look. Get a good look. Are you looking? Are you looking right now? Get a good look. Okay, that's enough. Grab that, go and play with it, do your thing, enjoy it. I hope it serves you well. For anybody that wanted to stick around and see the skill trees, this one's for you. Here's a look at our Mystical Assault skill tree. As you can see, there's not really anything groundbreaking here as far as Phaserker Amara builds go. Everything is fairly standard outside of the addition of 5 points into Do Harm. And we're going to go over that and the rest of the skill tree along with some gameplay footage here in a few minutes. Moving over to our red Fist of the Elements tree, again you can see that it's fairly standard as far as most Amara Phaserker builds go. We do have a few points however into Infusion, which I'm normally not a huge fan of, but in this case with my testing with this build, Infusion seemed to synergize really well with the rest of the mechanics, as well as provide a pretty reasonable damage increase. Finally, we have a look here at Amara's Green Brawl tree. Prior to the level 60 cap that came with DLC 3 here just a few days ago, this tree looked exactly the same as it does now. Even with the extra 3 points, I played around a little bit with trying to steal some points from the red tree plus our extra 3 to play with Arms DL, Samsara, and Helping Hands. I really didn't see a huge benefit to any of the 3 over top of what we had previously had in our build, so I decided to take those last 3 points that we just got awarded to us with the level cap increase and just throw them into sustainment. What I found during some of the more difficult mobbing sessions, like on True Takedown, the Malawan Takedown Bridge section, and the Crystals Charging sections of the Guardian Takedown, 2 out of 5 points of sustainment sometimes wasn't always enough, and we found ourselves getting downed quite a bit more than I would like. So I just took those extra points and put them into sustainment to help with some of our tankiness. Moving on to our action skill, we are going to utilize Ties That Bind for its effective crowd control, as well as the damage sharing element between multiple enemies, which is going to allow us to clear mobs extremely quickly and extremely efficiently. This one's a no-brainer. If you're a Phase Grass Amara, there's no reason not to use Ties That Bind, so we're going to abuse the hell out of it along with Indiscriminate. Stillness of Mind is a really great augment again for crowd control. Soul Sap is an acceptable option as far as I'm concerned, especially if you find yourself feeling a little squishy on some of those longer fights. Soul Sap is also nice because it does not suffer the damage and cooldown rate penalties that Stillness of Mind does. Your results may vary, use whichever one suits your scenario the best. And finally, as far as your element goes, I prefer Shock for the most part, but again, use whichever one makes you the happiest or works the best, unless it's Blight Tiger, because you can't have Blight Tiger with this build. Sorry. Taking a look at the gear I currently have equipped, you'll probably notice a trend, which is cryo. I highly recommend using items with high cryo efficiency for this build, as it synergizes very well with the rest of it, and it is a ton of fun. You're not bound to these weapons or gear by any means, but just keeping in mind with the theme of the build and the idea behind it, these are the sorts of things that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. My favorite gun to use at this moment is this double Chaosin in cryo with a 100 ASE anointment on it. It is level 57, but it is holding its own very well despite the level penalty that it currently faces against the new content being level 57 and up. This OPQ system is a holdover from the Cartel event. As everybody knows, it's an extremely powerful weapon. A consecutive hits anointment on it only makes it better. I have a number of Monarchs that come in various elements, just like most people, again with the consecutive hits anointment on it. They're all very powerful. I swap these out depending on what section of a raid that I'm in or what my needs are at that time. This 200 ASE backburner has been serving me very well, not only with bossing but with some mobbing situations as well. Gotten myself out of fight for your life a lot with this particular firearm. Moving on to the important stuff for this build, our mobbing equipment. This is number one. This Frozen Heart with an ASE shield break, activate any effects, that trigger on shield break or fill. This is an extremely important shield to run for the mobbing portion of this build. Whether it has this exact anointment or not is up to you. The constant novas while phase zerking is another great option, but this one's my personal favorite for the time being. That might change when I get a constant nova one, but for now I'm going to work with what I've got. This is one of the keys to this build, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. This is the Phase Zerker Comm that I'm currently using. I'm really enjoying the action skill cooldown rate on this one as well as the weapon damage. The assault rifle damage is really nice for the OPQ system in the Monarch. Coming down to our grenades. Now, there's a wide variety of grenades that you can use. However, the one thing that I recommend is finding the grenades with the highest cryo efficiency that you can. In this case, the Mitosis Hunter Seeker is the highest one that I've seen. The next closest one is a Merv Hex, Recurring Hex, something from the Hex family, and that usually has around 1100 to 1200 cryo efficiency. I believe it's 1167 or something like that, which is high, but the Mitosis Hunter Seeker has an even higher one. Finally, I really enjoy using the Icebreaker artifacts. This one's an auto-idle, which helps with some of our survivability. If you're looking for an Icebreaker, I would have to say that the best three that you could roll on it would be something in the likes of cryo efficiency, cryo damage is another great one, or an element that matches your action skill. Something like cooldown reduction is also a great one. This one's got incendiary and shock damage on it with an ignite chance. It's a very great artifact, and it works very well with my build. Now, as far as bossing or big single target damage goes with this build, I really can't recommend the Old God enough. Cryo is my favorite, but your results may vary. I find that swapping out the different element Old Gods for what you're about to face as far as a boss goes is obviously really helpful. With the normal use of this for mobbing, I would say that an Old God is another really great option in Cryo. And then we move down to a Pearl. Everybody knows what this is. Fantastic damage upkeep with those high fire rate weapons, which you notice that pretty much everything that I use is a high fire rate weapon. This really just can't be touched as far as dealing out raw output goes with this build. Now, I've mentioned two different sets of gear and two different modes, if you will, for this build. I mentioned mobbing and bossing. This build it works either way. These two sets are really interchangeable no matter what you want to do. However, I found that one set is more effective at one thing than the other is. It's not to say that the first set is only good for mobbing and the second set is only good for bossing. They really do both. The reason that the first set is so much more efficient for mobbing is because of the Frozen Heart Shield and the crowd control effects of freezing your enemies solid. You'll notice with the mobbing gear versus the bossing gear, what I like to call sport mode, is that with sport mode activated, your single target damage will increase significantly. However, the mobbing output of damage and the number of insta-kills that you're getting with the Ties That Bind skill will decrease, but your intended target damage and kill rate will increase, and the opposite is true for the other version of the build. With the mobbing gear on, a lot of the times the target that you're shooting at will not quite die if it's a more powerful enemy like the Manticores in True Takedown and the Guardian Takedown, but everything around it will basically vaporize within 1 or 2 rounds. So you really need to switch back and forth to whatever fits your needs at the current time. So the last thing we need to discuss is how the build works the way it does to do such insane single target and mobbing damage. There's a well-known interaction that we're abusing here between Ties That Bind and Indiscriminate, wherein Ties That Bind damage is shared and amplified between all of the enemies that you are currently grasping. Indiscriminate is ricocheting rounds between all of these enemies. The damage from that is also being amplified. So on and so forth. The cycle continues. Throw remnant balls in the mix, as well as dot damage. Everything is being cycled around and round, hence the name Popcycle Amara. To further that, we are adding in cryo to the mix and further amplifying that damage even higher. So the addition of cryo to the mix through the frozen heart, as well as the high cryo efficiency through the bossing gear that we have on, really allows this known interaction to reach just insanity levels of damage. During the testing phase for this build, I was doing a number of small challenges that I called single shot challenges, where I would be testing various weapons to find out what sort of damage numbers we could wring out of them with just a single round. Within the testing, I found that the OPQ system, while being a better overall mobbing weapon for this build, it wasn't able to produce the same numbers of raw base damage for a single round that the Chaosin could. And I believe that's due to the way that the Chaosin's double damage potential of each round impacts indiscriminate and the procking of extra ricochets. So to date, my record for the Chaosin with a single trigger pull is just shy of 1.6 billion damage that's shared between two targets. The fact that this is even possible with a single round from a recently nerfed weapon just goes to show just the capabilities and how powerful this build really is. Now, this isn't a single shot build. It's not intended to wipe out mobs of enemies with a single round, although it is certainly capable of it. Because status effect chance still comes into play here, and with a relatively low overall status effect, even with being boosted with everything we've got, including 5 points into Violent Tapestry, there's only so much that you can do when you're playing with percentages. So to overcome this gap, we just shoot lots of bullets, and eventually something lands. It's generally within 2 or 3 rounds, so this build really is great at just immediately nuking entire mobs of enemies, sometimes with 1 round and sometimes with maybe 3 or 4. So I realize I just made a very bold claim. 1.597 billion damage with a single trigger pull of a Chaosin is a tall tale, and I understand that. Thankfully I have a clip of this interaction occurring, and I'm able to showcase the damage numbers through photo mode. Please keep in mind that this footage was taken pre-DLC, pre-patch. We're not level 60 in this, we are level 57. We're still using the same Chaosin, but enemies are on level with us. That'll come into play within this clip. But the numbers don't lie, the damage is there, it's very clear. I'm quite proud of this figure that we've achieved, and I'd love to showcase that in this video. So right now I'm going to be showing some footage of one of my single shot challenges that I did in the Guardian Takedown. Right here we're going to grab a Manticore, full health, the strongest enemy in the area. Now you'll notice at this point that his health has come down in 3 large swaths, or ticks as I've been calling them. I have a theory that the loop of indiscriminate, ties that bind, dot damage, status effect chance damage, all of those, I have a theory that they go down in swaths of 3, or chunks of 3. I believe that cycles 3 times. If anybody can steer me in the right direction on that, please let me know, but I think that this is evidence, this clip provides evidence of those 3 big chunks coming. A little bit of damage happening behind us, but it's nothing major. But if we look forward at the enemies that we just hit, this is where you see things start to get interesting. So that was 1 round from the Chaosin. Here we have hits for 95 million on a ricochet enemy, as well as 330 million. Looking over to the enemy that we struck with the round, we have 672 million. Over here we have another 497 million being done. So I'm not a math doctor, but if my calculations are correct, then 597 plus 672 plus 330 plus 95, I believe that's well over 1 billion damage with a single Chaosin round. True takedown, Mayhem 10 solo. That's it, guys. That's the build video. It's done. We covered it all. Every single thing I could think of, we've covered. We've gone over our action skill, we've gone over our gear, we've gone over bossing, we've gone over mobbing, we've gone over big single target damage. that's it. I'm afraid we've hit the end of this video. I hope you guys have as much fun playing with this build as I did making this video. Like I said, this is my first YouTube video ever. I'm really excited to start producing some more. If you guys would be so kind, like, share, follow, subscribe, any and all of those social media buzzwords would really help me out, and it's a great way for you guys to keep track of what is coming next with my channel. So with that said, I'm going to head out. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.